The Concordia Growth Area is an area to the east and northeast of Gawler. It's wholly within the Barossa Council. The green line on this particular map indicates the Barossa Council's border. Those boundaries are against the Gawler Council and the Light Council. The Concordia Growth Area comprises almost 1,000 hectares of land. 678 hectares of that land will be for residential living, around 52 hectares for employment land supporting up to around 1,200 jobs, and the rest will be made up of parklands and infrastructure and so on. On that 678 hectares of residential land, there are expected to be around 12,000 homes housing 25 to 30,000 residents. In mid-January, the Department of Housing and Urban Development released a document called the Concordia Basic Infrastructure Scheme, and it sets out all of the infrastructure that's required for the development and, more importantly, for Gawler, who is responsible for the cost of that infrastructure. That document is 142 pages long and pretty comprehensive. To better understand what the implications were for Gawler and the ratepayers in terms of infrastructure costs, I met with council staff and they explained it in great detail for me. I wanted to get an understanding of the document and everything that it entailed and the ramifications for Gawler, so that when I shared the document, the Concordia Basic Infrastructure Scheme, I was able to answer questions and not mislead people with misinformation. To the best of my ability, I'm going to try and explain some of that document here in a video format rather than a series of image posts and lengthy text related to the post. The critical part of that document is on page 25, a 5-page table known as Table 3, Summary of Roads, Bridges and Intersection Scheme Projects. Within that table, Gawler is named as one of the responsible parties for the development costs. Gawler is listed as one of the responsible parties in 8 out of the 34 infrastructure projects detailed in that table. The table sets out the project ID of each individual project, the title and the short description of that project, the strategic justification, so why the project needs to happen, and importantly, apportionment to the growth area and the delivery responsibility columns. The apportionment to growth area, that percentage is the amount that the Concordia developer has to pay. The next column, delivery responsibility, is who pays the balance or who's responsible for delivering the project, or both. Next is the trigger for delivery, so how many blocks or allotments need to have been developed before that project has to have begun or completed, and phases and the asset owner after that project has been completed. First project, RD03A, is the upgrade of Cheek Avenue between Carlton Road and Lyndoch Road, a project that was already on the cards due to the development of Springwood but has been necessarily expanded due to the increased traffic that the development of Concordia will add. As a result, they are responsible for 17.01% of the cost, and the rest is borne by us, the Springwood developer, other developers who are subject to the Gawler East separate rate that will benefit from the better road, and potentially the Department of Transport via grants and funding from other levels of government. The trigger for that project, RD03A, is just 300 allotments being developed in Phase 1 of the Concordia Growth Area. Project RD03B is the construction of Macmillan Parade between Carlton Road and Schomburg Drive. Macmillan Parade is basically the road that's going to be built from Springwood, from Schomburg Drive, or the Link Road, coming up behind the old quarry up onto Carlton Road. That's going to be a main thoroughfare for traffic through that stage of Springwood, and will be a thoroughfare for Gawler residents. Because that road will take a significant amount of traffic coming from the Concordia development ultimately up onto Schomburg Drive as a link road out of Gawler, the Concordia Growth Area developers are on the hook for 42.7% of the cost of that road. The remainder, the developers of Springwood, presumably, and Town of Gawler. The trigger again for that project is 300 allotments developed on the northern side of the Barossa Valley Way, so anything within stage 1 of the Concordia Growth Area. That project is not far off starting already. RD04 is interesting. Cheek Avenue on the northern side of Lyndoch Road, going past the old Anglican Cemetery and then around the bend over the bridge over the railway line to Harris Road. It was originally going to be a major entry point into the growth area, and it no longer is. So at this stage, there's no project in terms of road to deliver there. According to this table, 2040 plus is when we might have to look at something there. RD05A is an upgrade to the Barossa Valley Way, that's Lyndoch Road to most people, between Cheek Avenue and Concordia Road. Now that Concordia Road is the major entry point into the growth area, it's necessary to upgrade that section of Lyndoch Road. That is a state road. Although we are listed under one of the parties for the developer's responsibility, that road will be the responsibility of DIT as their state road, or Department of Infrastructure and Transport, and the developers of Concordia. There won't be any cost to us for that road. Again, the trigger point for that project is 300 allotments developed in phase 1 of the Concordia growth area. Now we're up to the intersections. And the first of the intersection projects, IN01, is the intersection between Macmillan Parade and Schomburg Drive. That's construction of a roundabout. That's 29.37% the responsibility of the Concordia developer, again because of the expected increased traffic using that thoroughfare. The remainder is the developers of Springwood and other developments that may come up in the area in the future, and the Town of Gawler. And again, the trigger point, 300 allotments developed in the Concordia growth area stage 1. Intersection Project 02, so IN02, is a roundabout that's been planned for some time at the top of Carlton Road where it meets Cheek Avenue. Cheek Avenue is south of Carlton Road, so if you were going up Carlton Road and turning right onto Cheek Avenue, or coming off Cheek Avenue from the Cork Road, Courton Street, Popham Avenue direction, and trying to turn left onto Carlton Road, that will no longer be possible. The southern side of Carlton Road Cheek Avenue users will need to get onto Macmillan Parade, the newly constructed road, and that will connect to the roundabout, which will be at the corner of Carlton Road and Cheek Avenue north of Carlton Road. Carlton Road will go through it from east to west, Cheek Avenue will go north of it, Macmillan Parade will go south of it. That's a very expensive project, a lot of services under there, a lot of disruption. The Concordia developer will be on the hook for 58.39% of the cost of that roundabout. The remainder, the developers of Springwood and the Town of Gawler. The trigger point again for that development or that project is 300 allotments developed in the Concordia growth area stage 1. The work on the roundabout has been underway for a couple of years now, but planning, because that roundabout was always going to be there in some way, shape or form. Which brings us to the last intersection project, IN-03. That's an intersection between Barossa Valley Way and Cheek Avenue. This is an intersection of a state road to our local government road. According to the apportionment, 67.42% of that cost will go to the developer of Concordia growth area and the remainder to us and other developers. But why should we pay anything towards the intersection of a state road? That one will be corrected in terms of who's responsible ultimately, because it is an intersection between a local government road and a state road, and that won't be of a cost to us when it's an intersection that benefits a developer and the state, not us. And again, the trigger point, 300 allotments in stage 1. And the final project is a bridge, BR02. This is the bridge mentioned earlier on the northern part of Cheek Avenue from Lyndoch Road, past the Anglican Cemetery, around over the railway line to Harris Road. What was to be a major endpoint to that growth area is no longer on the cards, at least for the next 25 years. So down the track there may be something developed there, but it's way off in the ether and won't cost us anything for a long time, if at all. So that covers pretty much everything. You can have a look at the document yourself. It's pretty comprehensive. I may have missed something, I probably did. There may be more to add down the track. There may be some tweaking around the edges between the different levels of government and developer, but largely this is how this will look. The next stage for the document is to go to the Environment Department. There's a significant amount of work in stormwater and environmental impacts that will need to be assessed from that in this document. That will be the next phase for the Concordia growth area and the Concordia Basic Infrastructure Scheme.